evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our weekly Andor discussion, reaction review here on the Pop Culture Cult. And this is for episodes 1, 2, and 3, because they very nicely saved 3 of them for the opening night. Opening day.
Very nicely.
Very nicely. Some logistics about what we do here. We watch the episode, leave, come right in here, and record. So these are right instant thoughts, instant reaction, instant discussion about what we just saw. Do we have every ship's name, every actor's name, every toy name, do we have all that? No, that's not what we're here for. We're going to talk a lot more about themes and discussions that are going on within the show that they're showing us.
Right.
We will do our best to add ships and guns and character names. And as I told my wife when B2 Emo showed up on the screen, we're going to love him by the end of these 3 episodes. And yes, we want a droid.
I want to know what the spinny things are. It's like the first time I saw him, I thought of the old slide cartridges, when your mom and dad went on vacation,
yes,
they came back and showed everybody the slide.
I just thought it was like a Lazy Susan. It just kind of, because it gave him raps one time.
Oh yeah,
like he's almost a medical droid, but a little bit more than that. Something else we want to talk about before we get into this: the logistics of what they did. They told us, "Hey, Andor's coming August 31st or whatever," and then about a month out from that, they said we're going to wait till September 21st, which is when we watched it today. We did not stay up till midnight. We waited so AC out of the house and just all kinds of drama. So we're watching it that evening, and they started the marketing like it was going to happen in August, but then they've kind of continued it on into getting ready for this 3-episode start.
Sure. Yep.
Now, with that being said, I'm glad they did this after seeing these 3 episodes.
Yeah, they definitely, I mean, obviously we haven't seen, the rest of the season, but they definitely felt like they worked well. It gave us, sometimes one of the downfalls to the week to week, which Disney has definitely embraced with their series, is that you kind of forget what happened the week before, or
right.
Maybe don't necessarily remember all of it. And so to have all of this together, it feels like one continuous mini movie, for lack of a better term.
Each episode was about 35-ish minutes, give or take.
Yeah, so the whole thing was an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But it gives you one continuous story, so you get to follow Cassian via jumping back and forth through being a kid. You get at least some backstory as to what happened on the planet that he was on, and how he ended up not being there anymore, and then kind of how he ends up joining the rebellion.
Yeah. That's a really I think it's a little bit deeper than just him joining the rebellion. I think by the end we get the actual rebellion. The seeds are sown.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically for Cassian, because it is his show. Yes, this is how he gets commandeered, I guess, or kidnapped, or however you want to word it.
I mean,
coerced.
No, because he didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Stellan. Who was he?
Luthen.
Luthen. Wasn't like he kidnapped him. Cassian kind of did something he shouldn't have, and made a bad situation, and
then made it worse, and then
made it worse.
The reason I wanted to bring up the 3-episode thing is because the first episode ends kind of inconspicuously. there's really not a cliffhanger. There's not really it's like the end of a chapter, but there's nothing really to it. There's nothing to like, that was a great episode that gets your attention. I'm excited to come next week. It was laying the groundwork for the next chapter, the next episode, and then that next episode really lays the groundwork for what happens at the end of episode 3, and that whole story between those 3 episodes really gets you going into the series itself.
Yeah.
And I think if they had decided to just do that one episode by itself, a lot of the discussion would be very different than what we've gotten so far.
Yeah, the internet.
The internet would have been full internet.
Yeah, on the first episode.
Yeah.
And my God, this is horrible. This isn't what we wanted. Blah, 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 blah. So.
Right. And I think because they paused, waited the extra time, made sure that story of Cassian going with Luthen and kind of starting his process of working for the rebellion. Now, the rebellion's never said, resistance is never said.
Right.
The Empire is mentioned, but not in total kind of thing. Not proper kind of in name kind of thing.
Yeah, it's still early days, right? And even was it in Rogue One where somebody, was it Jen that said the rebellion, the alliance, whatever you people are calling yourselves these days?
Yeah.
She was talking to
Cassian, to Mon Mothma and General. Yeah, that whole scene. Yeah. It's been like 2 weeks since we've seen Rogue One. We're not up to date on it. Okay, so let's now that we kind of got the logistics of everything that happened, what are your overall thoughts of these first 3 episodes? Do you really like it? Do you like what you saw? Do you not like it?
No, I liked it. I like the kind of gritty, planet-based story, right? Mm-hmm. Even though, I mean, it's Star Wars, but it was more of a day-to-day life, planet-based people, creatures. I don't know what you call humans and non-humans. Just kind of trying to get by and living their lives, and there happens to be spaceships.
There happens to be spaceships and droids, and definitely has that kind of real worldness of Star Wars at times.
Yeah, instead of just on a ship.
I made notes because I was enthralled in what I was seeing.
I would like to point out that the bell ringer guy
was really loving his job.
He loves his job. He was giving it his all.
Ferrix is the planet, the Scrapper planet.
Yeah.
And that planet is, a lot of the ships there are from the actual galactic civil war that we got with the Separatists and the Republic at that point in time. And a lot of those ships are being scrapped to make Imperial ships down the line.
Right.
And this is just one of the planets that is actually being used within the confines of the Empire. And the people who are living there are very content to live out their lives and have a job. And they're not living the high life.
Right.
But everybody's got a job. Everybody's making some money. Everybody's, being fed. They made a point of showing all of that.
Yeah.
And I think that that grittiness that you're talking about, I've been super excited about having Star Wars tell the everyday man story within this conflict, and these multiple conflicts throughout this saga that we got, because from the point of view that they've told so far, it's always about the political people making decisions, or political people making decisions to put their authority down on their authoritative thumb on them, and those people reacting. But it's always a small group of people who are fighting against a small group of people.
Right.
You're never really gotten the chance to see the actual people on the ground. Now, we've had some. We got the people on Jeddah, we had the people on Mos Eisley, but we weren't in depth with them.
Right. We weren't spending any time with them. It was kind of a passing through.
Yeah. We got to see them. That's about it.
We got to see them and get a small taste, thinking of Jeddah specifically, a small taste of kind of what life is like there, I guess.
Especially a planet in a city specifically that are dying. That's slowly dying.
Yeah. I think Tatooine is probably the planet we've spent the most time on as far as daily life, and still not really, I mean, Luke goes into Mos Eisley, and we get Mos Espa a little bit, but not, still not the day-to-day, like, hey, that's Bob who works in the bar, and that's Jill, and she works in a scrapyard or whatever.
I liked them kind of starting the episode on Marlana 1, which is the corporate kind of home world of. They really didn't kind of explain what that home world was about, but it's run by corporate security, and it's run by a corporation kind of thing. And they started off in the rain, which again, Star Wars not on a desert planet. But starting in the rain, and then when they actually do go inside, it has a very Imperial feel to it. It's not necessarily the whites and grays that we have of the Empire, but it's very clean lines, very shiny surfaces, smooth surfaces, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you get the Ferrix, and it's very worn. I won't say gritty, because gritty has we've already kind of said that, but it's worn, it's lived in, it's organic, very much more than what Morlana 1 was. And I like that dichotomy back and forth between those two planets, because Star Wars is a lot about the organic versus the mechanical, the imperialistic versus the naturalistic.
Right.
And so that kind of conversation back. So for us as Star Wars fans, I'm a super Star Wars fan. She's a above average Star Wars fan. But for us to have that visual of the two different dichotomies, was a really cool thing. And then when you got the actual security officers, who are in uniform, most of them are sloppy, but the main guy, Siren Kern, his outfit's very tailored. And he's very proper and by the book. And
I think it's a visual cue that, it's the show not tell, kind of
we'll
storytelling.
Talk about that a lot. Get used to that term.
It's a visual cue between the Empire and everybody else, right? And you get that in pretty much all of Star Wars. If you're with the Empire, it's like you said, white and black and clean, and then when you're
very proper,
everybody's in uniform, and then the rebellion is the ragtag.
The guys who went to Goodwill and did some shopping because that's all the money they had. Kind of outfits,
and the outfit that they wear every day. Or whatever.
The outfit that Andor has for most of this first three episodes, I really like. The long trench coat kind of thing and stuff. Luthen's outfit in episode 3 with the green overcoat with the open sleeves and the undercoat underneath, like that's, I'd wear that every day. Maybe not here, but here in Arizona, but somewhere where actually there is weather, and
it's convenient for the pocket.
It's got tons of pockets with credits. I love
bombs.
That. And bombs. Okay, so with the show starting on Marlana 1, the first thing I said to her was, "Is this Blade Runner?"
Yeah.
It had a very Blade Runner-y, because it's in the rain. It's very kind of futuristic looking, and they go to a brothel because Cassian is looking for his sister.
Right.
And in that exchange with the brothel madam, he gets harassed by 2 security guards from the planet, and so you have this whole feel of Blade Runner and the kind of aesthetic of being on the grid in Tron, kind of that same kind of feel. Is it again? Show don't tell storytelling. This is going to be a very different kind of feel than anything else Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a lot of the aesthetics. You're going to have a lot of things that are going to look familiar, feel familiar, including Luthen's walking stick, which looks like a lightsaber.
Right.
It retracts like a lightsaber, but
right.
it's a walking stick.
Right. It's a walking stick.
Right. But here's all these visual cues that make you feel like it, because they're also foreign to us. They're unknown to us in that aesthetic. And like we were talking about with all that, when they start there, and they also give you the idea that Cassian is on his own missions. He's not in the rebellion yet. He's on his own mission to find his sister. Right. And we figure out later why all that's happening.
Right.
But the start there, because we're all expecting him to be in the empire or be in the rebellion and going after people. It's like, no, it's not that.
Right. It's the beginning of him entering the rebellion or whatever it's called at that point in time.
Right. It's a ragtag group of ne'er-do-wells or terrorists, as the Empire will. Terrorist cells.
Right.
We get to so much. So we get these flashbacks back and forth between young Casa, and what's going on Ferric and on Morlana 1. So the stuff that happens, it's called Kearney or something along that. Kieran. It's something like that. They said it like 17 times. I wrote it down wrong. I'm just going to go with until we remember it. That planet, it's like very Lord of the Flies kind of feel.
Yeah.
With all the kids, and they're speaking some kind of foreign language, and they don't subtext it.
Right. Which I thought was interesting.
And his sister, I thought was the older one, who was kind of the lead, wasn't necessarily her. It was the little one who was kind of chasing him around.
Yep.
It was very interesting to see that he's off on his first expedition, that's the word, with the tribe after a separatist ship falls. And she wants to go with him, and she can't because she's not old enough. But he makes a point of like, hey, I'll be back. I think that's what he said.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure she said, I have a bad feeling about this because it's Star Wars.
Right, because it's Star Wars.
And we have to do that. And they go to the ship, and they get it's technically not the Separatists. They are called the Confederacy of Independent Systems, the Separatists. For those who are going to be like, it's some kind of medical ship. Because everybody has gas masks on. It looks like they got shot down in something, or they took some kind of damage, and whatever they were carrying seeped into the system.
Yeah, exploded or whatever. I mean, you saw the kind of yellow, green, whatever gas escaping from several places on the broken up ship, and everybody was yellow, and looked like that's probably what killed them. And then when what's her name? Marva?
I'm gonna go with Marva.
Marva? And then the guy that she was with, I don't know who that was, showed up. They had masks on. They had breathing apparatus, and then the little droid guy said, "Hey, the air's
it's all clear."
Did
you catch that that B2 emo was not stuttering?
Right, and he was very new.
And he was very new.
He was shiny and new.
Yeah, I like that kind of.
And she was, younger, and so obviously this was.
But he was, he's Cassian, saw his reflection, I guess, for the first time.
Yeah,
and didn't like it. So he starts beating everything up, and then Marva and the other gentleman showed up. I don't think it's going to tell us on this one. Nope. Are there, and they're scrapping essentially.
Yeah.
And they know that the whoever is coming, because B keeps telling them 5 minutes out, 8 minutes out, whatever.
Yeah, the Empire.
And
whatever.
They take Casa because he's going to be killed because he's on the ship.
Yeah.
Or whatever that it means, or maybe not even killed, just taken, interrogated, whatever. And so that introduces us to her, that she was actually trying to just, again, make a living, scrap it out. But this is during the Civil War, where the lines are very blurred for us as the audience. But in the world of Star Wars, it's very much the Republic versus these separatists who are against the system. And so you have these people in the middle, which I feel much of this show is going to be about, is having this conversation, and they all of that is done before he gets taken and everything, to show that their home planet is being strip mined.
Well, apparently it was, and apparently there was an accident.
Yes.
And that's probably why there are no adults. They were all probably killed in the mining accident, and so now all the children have been left to fend for themselves.
And I'm pretty sure the planet got strip mined so bad that they couldn't do anything with it, because it's very lush where the children are and stuff, and then you get to the strip mine and it's nothing.
Yeah,
it's stripped, and that is a visual cue. That's something else I want this show and more Star Wars to explain, is the utter stripping of natural resources that the Empire does against everybody in the galaxy.
Yeah.
And sometimes they sneak their way in, sometimes they force their way in, sometimes they bargain their way in, sometimes they buy their way in, and then by the time you realize that they are there doing all this terrible things to your planet and your people, it's too late.
Yeah.
And so that visual showing of that was such a huge thing for me. It was in the trailer, so I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But that visual storytelling is just showing the representation of this mechanism that is A, the Separatists, but also B, the Empire as we get down the line.
Right. And, it costs a lot of money to keep building Death Stars.
Right.
It costs a lot of resources.
Lots of resources. And why build one when you can build two at twice the price?
Twice the price.
If you get that reference, you are watching the right show. Let's talk about Cassian killing the two corporate officers. He was there looking for his sister. That's all it was. He was trying to be in and out, try to get some information. He leaves, but these guys are just dicks.
Yeah.
And they remind me very much of the SS.
Yeah, so not really for me. I got, again, visual representation of a bunch of people, like lots of the what were they called? They weren't called the officers.
The corporate
security, whatever. But they were all pretty overweight or super green.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Like, and Cassian
even Kern.
Well, he is like, he's all, bravado and this makes me so angry, and we're gonna go out there, and then he gets out in real, in a real situation, and ends up getting captured, and he keeps looking around like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and he looks nervous, and then the guy who they tell to go get on the ship because he shot somebody on the planet instead of he shot
right.
Sean? Scene?
Tim?
I
think it was Tim.
Okay. Oh, I was way off. Which is like not a good thing to do. Don't, make the natives angry because they way outnumber us. They go send him on the ship, and he ends up, because they tied a anchor to the ship, basically. Yeah. He ends up killing himself instead of just put it back down. But he's all like, "Why?"
Right,
you know.
Right,
so
right.
They're either super green or fat and lazy, and just don't care. Like his Kern's boss,
right? Chief Inspector or something like that. Yeah,
he just doesn't care. You know, he's like, whatever. We don't care the two of our guys. So, I mean, they're very like. I don't know if this is a product of what happened. This is like after the Civil War, and so like a lot of their guys were killed, and so now they've got a bunch of green guys.
If it's just corporate security, think about a lot of modern day security guards. Those guys are great, and they're super nice and awesome people, but a lot of them are just sitting behind a desk collecting a paycheck. They're not necessarily fighters or looking to. I mean,
but these. I mean, it feels like they've got to have more.
These guys feel like the call center version of security. Like they're just there to.
But they got to have more weight. Like why they show up? What 12, 18 of them show up on a planet, and
12 and 2 officers. Yeah,
and everybody's freaking out. So there has
they have to have some. Yeah.
Some Darth Vader behind them, you know, that's scaring everybody. It can't just be a bunch of, hey, we're security, stop, or I'll yell stop.
You know, they did make a comment when they figured out that it was Cassian and they were on Ferrix. They did make a point of we need to have a heavier hand in our region and keep everybody in line, which is very imperialistic as a mantra. Rule out of fear and not cooperation.
Yeah,
and this is just a corporation and doing that. It's just a corporation just ruling out of fear, or at least this particular group wanting to rule out of fear.
Yeah, I mean, they have to have some. There has to be some. Like, do they belong to the corporation that's bringing these ships in to be scrapped?
Right.
And so they're all going to lose their jobs?
I wonder
there has to be some reason why they would be afraid of them, or else it's just...
I wonder if they're the contracted security people that the Empire hires, because the Empire can't cover everything.
Yeah, maybe.
And so they're the security force that they hired for this scrap planet that isn't really doing anything. They're not picking a fight with anybody. They're just doing their job.
Right.
And so it's easier and cheaper for the Empire just to hire this security company for this sector and have them be the ones who, if need be, enforce whatever rules or laws or whatever that's around.
Right. But they're just kind of left to, they're not strictly overseen by whoever's
not until next week
of them,
because they pulled some poo in this episode. They overreacted, and the chief inspector guy even made a point of like, I'm going to the Imperial
conference
or whatever to say that crime is fine, crime is not a problem, and if I report that two of our guys were murdered the day before I leave, it's just going to start a shit show that we don't want to deal with.
Right. Oh, now you're going to come back and find out that like 10 of your guys were killed on this planet.
And you get one fire and brimstone security guy. What is his name? Sergeant Kostek? Who is a fire and brimstone, rule with an iron fist. I have the authority. I'm a big, burly, buff guy. I'm gonna rule out of fear. And then you get Kern, who is to the letter of the law kind of guy. You get the two of them teamed up, and so they're gonna build each other into a frenzy that them not going after this murderer of their own people, even if those two guys were just dicks.
Yeah.
Like how dare they? How dare they not go after this guy? And so them building themselves up in a fervor, and then going to Ferrix with 12 guys and 2 officers, and then start picking fights and busting into an old lady's house. Like, it just, like, at what point do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah. It's very, like, Revolutionary War, you know, when the British, like, came to America and just started, like, pick and fight, like, the soldiers.
Yeah.
Pick and fight, like, watch, the Mel Gibson, The Patriot,
Yeah.
right? Where the guy just, like, kills his kids, and how do you
just for the sport of it, you know?
Yeah, and his superior's like, okay, this probably wasn't a great idea, and now you've just made the wrong people mad. And
I also kind of took it too as we're just going to come up with all these different references and and movies and TVs. V for Vendetta, the guys on the street who are just straight bullies,
yeah,
who are the police force, not actually police, but they are for the political party and power, and like they keep putting people in jail for the wrong reasons or for no reason, or taking girls off the street, like all these little things. It keeps building until the people of London boil over and fight back.
Yeah.
And this kind of has that same kind of general feel.
Yeah, maybe like the beginnings of it, because I don't feel like this has been going on, because they saw him show up, and I mean, everybody was kind of like, oh, we should probably. Well, at first they were okay, and then they started tearing up Marva's house, and so then people started getting mad.
Yeah,
started banging on the
alarm
chimes,
system went off.
Alarm, and then people are like, oh, time to close up shop and get out of here and hide and stuff. And so and there was even a couple references like, oh, what are these guys doing here? So it doesn't feel like it's something that's happening on the regular, but
enough that they have a warning system, a way of telling everybody.
Well, but that may not be specifically for them.
Yeah,
it
that's
could just be a warning system. But I mean, I think if it was something that was going on the regular, as soon as they showed up, everybody'd be like, lock your doors and get out.
Yeah.
This was more casual until it wasn't anymore. And so now they have set a precedence, and now the people of this planet are not going to be excited when they show up.
I liked the final shot where they went through everybody from the town who was directly involved in what happened.
Right.
And Bix getting handcuffed to the wall and watching Tim getting shot.
Yeah.
And them working their way through everybody.
The aftermath.
Mm-hmm. And everybody kind of had all of them had the same general look of, okay, now it's time.
Yeah.
Like now, like we've been oppressed or on the wrong side of whatever's been going on, but we've been living with it. And now this was the final straw, or this was the first straw that starts breaking the camel's back.
Right.
And then when the Imperials show up next week, because this corporation pulled some poo, and now the Imperials are there, they're just going to want to fight against whatever authoritarian partner is going to show up on the scene at that point in time.
Yep.
Tim selling out Cassian because he's jealous. Drunken Irish man, they made a point of showing it. He got drunk, he got jealous, he made a phone call, and it's his fault. Bix is going to be an interesting character to kind of go along. She's obviously with Cassian about pulling things and pulling side jobs, and she's the connection to Luthen, and calls Luthen there, but I don't know what her story is going to be going forward.
Right.
Why is she in this fight? Why did she get pulled into this fight?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she'll be like, vengeance for Tim, or
right.
Or
she's been involved with everything, so she's been able to see things maybe a little bit deeper than maybe just the average Joe on the street kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So the show is called Andor, and we haven't really talked about Cassian. We've talked about him getting as young. A lot of people are going to have some questions which are going to be legitimate questions, but we're going to let the series kind of tell us.
I don't think they're done telling his story.
No, but the line a lot of people attach to in Rogue One is, "I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old." Mm-hmm. If he's on a planet that's being strip mined by the Separatists, he's been in this fight since he was 6 years old. It's been told, whatever, but they are going to have to.
Well, and if his whole family or his parents were killed in a mining accident because the Empire was stripping the planet, then yeah.
Right. And then they attack Marva, who's his surrogate mom, and like all that other stuff, whatever. Him getting in the fight and killing the 2 guards. The one guard was on accident. It was complete like random thing. The guys were being a dick. Whatever. Him shooting the other guard in the head, who was on his knees, shows that he has this in him. So when we get to Rogue One and he kills that informant guy, it's secondhand nature to him at that point in time.
Yeah.
But here it's obviously the first kill, because you can just see how Diego Luna plays it with "it was the right thing to do. I've screwed up."
Yeah.
Look on his face.
Yeah. I mean, and it's, you just kind of feel for him.
Right.
It's not like he put himself in that position. He was just trying to see if his sister was there and then get out, and they, decided to start crap.
The rest of the 3 episodes is when they're on Ferrix, is him just pretty much trying to work deals to get enough credits so he can go into hiding for a while.
Yeah.
And Bix is on him to about doing the right thing, and then Tim is the one who's it may not be Tim. Be nice in the comments. But him, being jealous. You've got his buddy out in the scrapyard that helps cover for him. He's got the one guy he owes money to that stops him in the streets, and he hired some big alien guy to, and
his
he's
muscle,
and
the muscle is like,
I need a job.
Friend. He's like, he just told me to stand here.
Him showing remorse with Marva, when the call goes out for his warrant, is like he tried to get work his way out of it and whatever, and then they address that the warrant is out there for him and stuff like that, and he's like, I screwed up. I know I screwed up, and I'm trying to fix it by getting out of here and getting away from all of this, and the only real key is that his he asked for a Fenry girl looking for his sister at the brothel, and that was the one piece. And Fenry, apparently, like you were saying, mining accident, something happened, whatever. So there's not a ton of those people out.
No, it's not Fenry. That's the K, the Karen or.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Henry. I'm just gonna keep saying different things with vowels on them and see what happens. But that's the only thing, and they're able to piece it together. Then Tim sells them out and stuff like that. Everything is building up to meeting Luthen, and Luthen shows up, and they have this exchange in this. What is that building?
Well, it's like engine hoists, engines hanging from the.
Yeah, it's from like the 1920s.
Right, they're World War II plane engines hanging.
Right. But that whole exchange between Cassian and Luthen, and then the security guards trying to surround the building, we saw at the Rogue One IMAX re-release.
Yep.
It's a very good action piece to end the 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it's a cool action piece, but there's so much more behind that, because Luthen doesn't care about the thing that Cassian has.
Right.
He cares. It's the box with the transport. It's something Imperial.
Yeah, it's like clean codes and sealed whatever credentials.
The box is the MacGuffin. It's irrelevant.
Right.
What's relevant is Luthen is looking for someone who is able to pull off a job like this.
Right.
And needs to have somebody like him, if not necessarily by his side, working for him to properly fight against the Imperials.
Right.
And he lays it all out in front of Cassian until he and Cassian doesn't want to hear it. He just wants to get paid. He wants to get off planet.
Yeah.
That's the only thing he's really worried about until he calls out his father and his name and tells him that I know that you killed 2 security guards. And Cassian, rightfully so, overreacts.
Yeah, I mean, he's, technically a child of the streets, right?
Yeah.
So, this is how he's earned his living. This is how he grew up. So he's got to be wary. No one, like he was telling Marva, or she was telling him, like, who knows that you're from this K planet? Who knows? Everybody that I know that knew is dead. And so for him to just start throwing all this stuff out there, that he knows all this stuff about Cassian that really no one knows, that would send your, you'd be
warning bells, hackles up, and
yeah.
stuff.
How do you know this stuff?
Yeah,
I mean, we're gonna find out how he knows, but
a lot of people have talked about Luthen specifically about because he's a new character that we don't know. We know Mon Mothma and the stuff that she's doing in the Senate and all that stuff that's going on with her, but with Luthen, we really don't necessarily know who he is. He's obviously, from the trailers and things that we've seen, he's obviously from money. He has money. He has 40,000 credits that he's just going to give to some random guy for a box.
Right.
So he's got money.
Well, and there's a couple of scenes in the previous trailers where it looks like he was with the Empire, in there somehow, like he was making some deals.
I wonder if he's they kind of addressed this in The Last Jedi. I wonder if he was somebody who made his money as a
selling war
or whatever, and then got to a planet and saw what actually was going on.
Yeah.
And saw the devastation that's going on because of what the Empire is doing. And they say, okay, he says, okay, I need to be better.
Yeah.
And I think that conversation would be really interesting to have. It would be really kind of cool.
That would be a good kind of tie back.
It'd be tie back because a lot of
tie forward.
Sideways, cha-cha-cha. A lot of the rich people in the rebellion are politicians, and so Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, they are politicians. It's not necessarily just people of wealth trying to do the right thing for the everyday person.
Yeah.
A lot of people of wealth are getting their wealth off of the prosperity that the Empire is taking from everybody else.
Right. And that
sounds very familiar to everyday
I was going to say that's what goes on generally, in the world today, is people don't want to know how they got that money. I mean, they know, but they just pretend they don't, because they would like to keep getting it. And so, it would be interesting to see, a couple of these people when they really start to, selling weapons thousands of miles or light years away from where the actual action is happening.
Right.
It's very easy to just pretend it's not happening.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that Iron Man deals with, is when Tony sees that what his weapons are actually doing. It's a eye-opening experience for him.
Yep.
And so it's a parallel, but sometimes it's not like it's not been told that way before.
Yeah.
Star Wars borrows from other stories and kind of points it in the sci-fi, fantasy kind of realm.
Yeah.
And then, kind of makes you interpret it however you want to interpret it. And some people don't get that. And that's part of also the conversation. Some people are going to be like, well, he's rich. Why does he want to, why would he want to give up his riches to help, Dave on the street corner? And that's part of the conversation, because a lot of people too are going to see the security guys and go, or the joke is, millions of people died on the Death Star. Everyday contractors died on the Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
In the new Princess and the Scoundrel book, after the Battle of Andor, Han and Leia go on the Halcyon Legacy for their honeymoon, and one of the couples on the ship, their son was on the second Death Star as a contractor.
Yeah,
and they were just doing their job.
Yeah,
and so it's interesting to kind of have those kind of different views of this same conversation when the big thing over here is just trying to oppress everybody, and only a few people are able to profit off of that. Mm-hmm. So it's if that's the conversation we're going to have in this show, I'm here for it. And Tony Gilroy, who's the showrunner for this, has definitely been on top of this. I'm telling my own story, and it's in this umbrella of Star Wars, but there's not going to be like fan service or some random character like Saw showing up. Saw makes sense.
Yeah, but because I mean, you get the idea that they, Cassian and Saw haven't necessarily met before, but they've been in the same circles because Cassian knows who Saw is when we get to Rogue One.
And Saw is a big freedom fighter against the separatist movements. That Anakin and Ahsoka teach how to do guerrilla warfare. And then when everything happens with the Empire, he becomes one of the first real big rebel generals, rebel leaders, kind of thing. And so that having him in the show makes complete sense. Yeah. But Tony Gilroy's like, we're not going to get some, cameo of the week like we're doing with She-Hulk.
Right.
We're going to get things that are Star Wars.
Right.
The cane that looks like a lightsaber.
Right.
Kind of thing.
And droids and
right. But
spaceships
but the story that they're laying out in front of us with the show,
and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, and I just really love what they did with this first 3 episodes. Not first episode, first 3 episodes. I'm sure there's other things that we missed. We will be kind of, as we go along, we'll be like, oh, wait, in episode 2, they mentioned this. It makes sense in episode 6, stuff like that. And there's 12 episodes in total, so they got the first 3 done. It'll be week to week from here on out. And then they're supposed to start filming season 2 after the first of the year. So it'll be probably 2024 before we get first of 2024 before we get the second season.
Yep.
So let us know what you thought of the first 3 episodes of Andor. In the comments down below, please be nice. That's a requirement around here. Also tell us what you think of our way of just kind of talking about it back and forth. They won't always be 45 minutes. We had 3 episodes to cover. We discussed doing them one by one. We had to talk about these 3 episodes together. So let us know in the comments down below. Please be nice. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and follow us on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links are in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.